Hey guys, welcome to West Coast Mopars. I get a lot of people asking me about the parts cars in the back, or even when I sell parts to guys, it's like they come to get the part and then they just happen to glance around the shop and then they just sort of silently wander back here and they want to know what all this stuff is. So I thought I'd give you guys a little tour and do a little shop tour, show you sort of my setup. And yeah, so this car is not a parts car. This is a 57 Dodge Custom Royal Lancer. It's got some doors piled up on it. That's a door from my 58 Plymouth, and that's actually another tailgate for the wagon. But anyways, this is a Custom Royal Lancer, so it's a Canadian car, even though it's not the Plymouth body with the Dodge nose. It's got the actual two-door hardtop, 57 Dodge look, but it is a Canadian car. It came with the 303 poly, which is like the Plymouth engine. That's often what you got in Canada. Got the Plymouth engine in the Dodge. But this car used to look, well, I mean, they all did, I guess, but I got this from a friend, and he told me when he got it in 1975, and it looked exactly like my blue and white one, except red and white. Same condition, shiny paint, and all it needed was a timing chain, and he had a million other projects on the go, and this just got parked outside next to his Quonset, next to his shop, and unfortunately this is just what it turned into. So I was picking away at it. I replaced this passenger quarter. If you get up close, you can see where I just sort of tacked it on there. That quarter actually came from this car, but I'll get to this one in a sec. So the Custom Royal has extra trim. It's got this piece up here, and it's got this extra piece here in this fancy grooved thing. If you look at this one, this is just a Royal. Doesn't have the grooves, doesn't have the top trim. So it's got extra trim. The Custom Royals also got these teeth on the bumper down here, so they really make the front end. It looks pretty neat. It's a little covered in pine needles and stuff right now, and junk from the trees, but somebody put 58 taillights in it for some reason, but it is a 57. And this piece of trim, this is extra too. It's just above the bumper here. None of my other ones seem to have that. But, oh, yeah, it's full of parts in the trunk, door panels, there's a Lancer hubcap there, dual antenna parts, trim. This side's not as bad. I mean, it's all wrinkly here. It obviously got in an accident and they tried to smooth it out. It was full of Bondo, but it's pretty cool. My overall plan with this is I've actually got a 400 and a push button 727, a cable shifted 727 for a big block. And that was my plan, was to just put it in here, put some sheet metal on the floors. This is a power bench seat out of a 58 Dodge, so it'd be cool to utilize this. And I just wanted to put it together and leave it crusty looking and actually drive it to a car show with my nice 57 Royal Lancer with my blue and white one. I think that'd be pretty cool to have them side by side. So that's that one. This is a parts car. This is a 57 Dodge Royal Lancer. I know it's a Lancer and I'm parting it out, I get it. But certain cars, when you can't find parts anywhere, at least over here, there's not much for parts for these things. I don't know where you guys live, but this is the nice side, so don't get me wrong. This side is the pretty side. I get it. It looks great. Why would I part it out? But when I got it, it was missing a lot. I did cut this quarter off over here. You know, the bumper's smashed in. This door's smashed in. This fender's smashed in. The window's broken. It's missing pretty much all of the interior. The hood is all crunched and folded up on the corners. The floors, like I said, the floors are gone completely. You can see the ground there. Door panels are like it's yeah, sure it could be saved, but this isn't like a, you know, these aren't Mustangs. I can't just go buy parts at Walmart or wherever, and you know, these things are so hard to find parts for. Unfortunately, sometimes you have to just pick one and part it out. And that is this one. Oh, and the roof. There's another reason I parted it out. The roof is full of rust holes. So, it is what it is. You just got to choose one. This car, though, is an American car. It does not have the teeth on the front. And this has a 325 poly. So, same as the Hemi, but with poly heads. And it's a perfect parts car for the blue and white 57 because it has a 325. Next is this is a 70 Chrysler New Yorker. It's a 4-door hardtop. Pretty heavily loaded with power windows, power trunk. It's got it's a split bench, so technically they're bucket seats, but it goes all the way across like a bench seat. I can't really see it. I got junk on the seat there, but there's the power controls and big split bench seat. It did have front and rear speakers. It had a reverberator behind the back seat. I've basically just been parting it out. It had a 440, 727. It's got front disc brakes. It's just been a great parts car. I bought it for like 50 bucks. The guy was going to squish it. I pulled the 440 and I rebuilt it here at the shop, and that's what it is in my 49 Fargo. It's out of this car. The 8 3/4 that was in the back, I took it out and I put it in my 57 Dodge Royal to upgrade it from the tapered rear drums. So, but a lot of good parts left on it. If you got a 70 New Yorker or Newport or 300, lots of good parts on this car still. It had a vinyl top, and it's actually what they call a tortoise grain. You know the gator grain on the E-bodies. Well, this is a tortoise grain, so would have been pretty interesting looking car. It also had fender mounted turn signals. I took those off. I still got them. I haven't sold them, but yeah. Next I've got this is a 68 Dodge Monaco. It's a Canadian car. It did have that wide anodized aluminum trim on the bottom. This car is from Saskatchewan. I don't have papers or anything for it. It's a 318 car. 318's in it. I'm planning on keeping that 318. It's a 68 318, so they were rated about 230 horse. Those are probably the best 318s in my opinion for the LA 318. Lots of good stuff on it. I just took the rad out of it. That's what's in that white 79 Power Wagon. I used the rad from this car. Looks like somebody had done body work on it, put it in primer a long time ago. Unfortunately, the frame on the rear is just rotted right out from sitting somewhere, and all the glass was out when I got it, so the interior is just absolutely roached. It's a Buckets console car, but everything's just crusty on it. I don't have papers. It's a 318 car, so it's back here. This is a 56 DeSoto Fireflight. and it's actually the Sportsman model, so it's kind of top of the line. It sat in a guy's field for, I don't know, probably 30, 40 years. I think it's an original Vancouver Island car, as far as I know. It had a 330 Hemi with a 4-barrel, so that's the Fireflight engine. The 2-barrel would be the Fire Dome. That's why I bought it, for that Hemi. But I ended up selling the Hemi years later to a guy. But I've kept the car around because it is sort of a 1-year only model. And I've sold lots of little bits and pieces off it to people who are trying to restore a 56 DeSoto. The rear window trim, that was a huge chunk of change I got for that. I was quite surprised. I wasn't expecting that. It's got a pretty neat back window. It's got that wraparound back window there. Lots of good stuff left on it. I've got the gauge cluster in the shop. It's got a clock up there in the center. People keep asking me if I'll sell it. I'm not quite sure yet. Had a plan for it, but I don't know if I'll ever use it. But yeah, if you got a 56 DeSoto, or 55s are similar, I think. It's got all the front suspension still, all the steering components. Lots of good bits and pieces on it. The grill, I can't believe I haven't sold the grill yet, or the front bumper. Yeah, lots of trim left on it. Lots of stainless. I don't really squish anything unless it's totally stripped, and I'm talking like all the clips, screws, everything. And even then, I'll keep it around. Guys will come and cut A-pillars out and stuff, so it has to be pretty much nothing left for me to get rid of it. A couple doors from some Valiants. This thing with all these toys glued to it, weird taillights, this stuff's all, somebody bolted all this on, these domes, these are just sitting, like they're glued down to it. This is a 68 Monaco 500, same as that primer one, but this one, I got this one first actually. It had a 318 in it. This was also a Buckets console car. But the guy who got it, he's probably watching this right now and cursing at me, he glued all this stuff to it. Funky mirrors, gauges. This dome is also glued down. He actually cut a hole, I don't know if you can see it in here, in the roof. And he's got all his little, this was a complete car. It's basically just holds trim and bits now. But yeah, it's all this extra wiring he ran. Yeah, he did a bunch of weird stuff to it. And it's got this emblems on the trunk here. It says, all lit up and horny. And so he had lights and horns. The engine bay is full of horns. Here, I'll make my way back around here. Yeah, he put all these horns in it, lights. And he had all these toggle switches in the car. He had an extra battery tray that he put over on this side. And here's a bunch of the little horns he had. More horns. All kinds of stuff. Here's more lights here. And I guess he would drive around and flip all the toggle switches, and this thing would be flashing and horns honking, and I don't know what he had going on. But he basically drilled a mint console and put all the toggle switches in the top plate, which is too bad. He kind of ruined that. And then he got pulled over in front of the cops, in front of the police station. There's another big horn on the roof here. He got pulled over and they gave him a vehicle inspection, because, why wouldn't you? And that was the end of that thing. But the 318 that was in this, I don't know if he did it or somebody did it, but somebody had rebuilt it and done a Magnum like a 5.2 Magnum intake and head swap, where you use oil through push rods and lifters, and because it blocks the oiling holes on the LA. And they had run it like that. And anyways, I pulled that engine out and I went through it. I ended up selling the intake and heads to a buddy. We did that on his 318 and his Dart, and gave him that cam as well. And then the 318, that was the short block that was left over, that is what I used in that blue and white 65 Valiant two-door post that I had, the 4-speed car. There's earlier videos of it. So it came out of this car. Okay, this is what's left of a 69 Dart. I know, not much. There's a slant 6 in there still with a 904. Front drum assemblies. There's not much left. It actually was a complete 4-door 69 Dart custom that I drove back here years ago. And I used the floors in my 67 Barracuda notchback, the yellow one, the 383 4-speed. Everything out of this car got used on another project, so or sold to help someone else. It's an old closed knuckle Dana 44. Came with my Power Wagon when I bought it years ago. 66 Power Wagon. This is a 68 Barracuda. It's hard to see up close here. It's hard to see at all, but it's a fastback. And it's actually a Formula S 340 car, but it doesn't have the 340, doesn't have any of the original stuff really. This side, the crunched in quarter, is how I found it. So the story is the guy bought the car in the 70s, and the 340, he blew it up right away. He built a 67 HP 440 out of like a New Yorker and put it in this car. Put fender well headers on it. He'd actually put a direct connection K member in it, a big block direct connection K member. You can see the holes there in the inner fenders from the fender wells, same as this side. Cut them out there. There's not much left on this thing. I just feel bad getting rid of it because it's a original Formula S 340 fastback. And I don't know, I still see value in parts left on it. Some people just think it's a waste of space, but lots of trim on it still, drip rail trim, and somebody cut a sunroof in. Anyways, story is he put the 440 in it. And then around Christmas time, his mom called and said, I need you to come over to the hump to Port Alberni. And he said, well, my truck's broken down, my 4x. All I've got is my Barracuda. And she said, well, you better get over here. So he took the Barracuda over the hump to Port Alberni and wiped out on black ice and went into the rock barricade wall or something, that's what he said. Crashed into the passenger side and mangled it, and then had it towed back over to Whiskey Creek area, and then it sat there in the bush, and then trees grew up all around it. And then I went looking for there was a 66 Dodge A100 on Craigslist, a little van. I went and looked at it. The guy wanted way too much money, so I passed on it. And at the time, somebody said, hey, I think there's an old Barracuda in the bush over there if you're interested. So went and looked, and it was this one. And a little more complete than it is now, but not, it had the glass was in it still. The K member, had an 8 3/4 in the back. But there was no engine or tranny. The guy had a bunch of the interior at his house. I met the guy, super nice guy. But it's been sitting here for years. People come usually once a month. Somebody comes and they take a little thing, or they need something else off it. So that's the other side of that Monaco. The buckets are sitting there in it still. I sold the console's actually in the shop. yeah, still lots of good parts in here. Moving over here, this is a pretty rare car actually. This is a 57 Dodge Custom Suburban. So it's got the Plymouth body, but it had a Dodge front nose, and it is a two-door wagon. So this one, and I've got another one that I've actually put some time into. They came to me as a pair, and the guy I got them from, he got them in the 70s. He said when he got them they were a pair, so they've been together forever. So they're like brothers now. I just keep them together. I can't sell one, I got to keep them both. Not to mention, where would I ever find parts for one of these? But this car had a 303 Poly with a 3 on the tree manual transmission. These are nice because they're station wagons. The parts are heavy duty. The suspension and steering and all that. And the brakes, everything's heavy duty. And it's got the fold down seat in the back still. It's like everything that my other car is missing, this one has. It's got the curved glass in the back. All the hard to find two-door wagon parts. That's the bumper for it on the ground there. But yeah, this has been a great parts car for the other one. And then there's just some stuff here. New Yorker fender. That's a Valiant or Duster bumper. That's a door off my old Polara station wagon. These 8 3/4 on the ground, those are the 50s ones, 57 to 64 basically, with the tapered rear axles. The gears in those, it's kind of neat. The casing is a 657, so it's the equivalent of a 741 in an 8 3/4. The spline count in the sides is the same as a 741, so you can put your modern axles from your 60s 8 3/4 into those pumpkins. And they always had pretty steep gears, like they've got 3.5s, 3.73s, 3.91s, because in the 50s, what was your top, highway speeds were 50 miles an hour, not 60 or 70. So they've always got steeper gears, and a lot of them are power locks, which is the same as a sure grip. So these get thrown out all the time because guys think, oh, those tapered rear axles are a nightmare, but they forget about the pumpkins. So good little piece to have. I've got a tire pile. This frame, this cut up frame on the ground, is actually the original frame for my 49 Fargo. I just moved it back here for some, basically get it out of the way, but it's getting taken over by weeds now. I should move it or deal with it. Dart trunk lid, dart door. There's a dash frame from a truck, swept line truck. There's the dog. This is Reggie. Reggie just turned 9. He's an old man now. Hey. Come on, let's go this way. That's the 8 3/4, the old style, out of my Royal, my 57, when I put the newer 8 3/4 in it. Got a bunch of rims up here, sort of organized when I tried. Some radiators over there. There's some Ford parts back there. I do have that dump truck. There's some 15x7 Jeep rims, 5 on 4.5 bolt pattern. I don't know what the offset is. Somebody said they don't work on. A bunch of steering boxes laying outside in the rain. Good spot for them. Some 60s Ford doors for a truck. A Hemi valve cover covering a 727. I've got these are pretty neat actually. I like them. I meant to hang them on the wall. Spitfire. These are off a 354 Poly, so old Spitfire valve covers. That's kind of cool. there's one more over here I'll show you. Walk past my tractor. You guys have seen that. So this is my other two-door wagon. This is a 58 Plymouth two-door sport Suburban. So it's not a Canadian car. It's actually supposed to have the Plymouth nose on it. But when I got it, it was missing pretty much everything except for the hood. And like I said, around here, there's not much for Plymouth stuff. So this is a 57 Dodge nose with a custom rail bumper. Most of the fenders, the rad support, and the hood that I've got for it came off of that other two-door wagon. It's got factory green tinted glass all around, which is pretty neat considering a Plymouth was kind of like a cheap car. I painted it outside, so it's covered in crap right now, but it actually turned out, well, a lot better than I thought it was going to. I am not a painter. I am not a body man. I'm not good at either. But you start getting guys around here to paint something. I mean, the shops around here, and I'm not knocking them, they do beautiful work, but you know, a lot of us regular guys, we can't afford that stuff. I mean, the guy down the road, he's starting at 20 grand, I think he said, or 30. Somebody said 20 or 30. That's his starting price. So whatever you want, 20, 30 grand. Oh wow. Well, good thing I have tons of cash for these old cars. So I painted this with the leftover paint from my 65 Valiant project. That car I painted blue with a white roof, and I figured if I've got more white or more blue, I'll spray the main part with what I got more of, and that was white. And then the blue is the bottom and the roof. And it's actually got it. I'm surprised at how well it turned out, considering I painted it outside, literally right over there where the white power wagon is, in the dirt with a tarp underneath it to stop the dust from kicking up. So my poor bodywork shows through. You know, it's not great, but this car was rotten. This car still is rotten. You know, I basically just put lipstick on a pig. You know, you can see right there, that stuff is just, it's crusty. You can see my poor Bondo work underneath there. I basically made the entire lower quarter from this paint line down. I just made, sorry, keep clearing my throat here. I just made that quarter out of sheet metal. This wheel lip, I folded it on my brake and made the wheel lip. Yeah, the roof was full of holes. You can see where sort of the metal's a little ripply there, from about, 6 different roof racks that this thing received over the years. This tailgate, this is actually from the other car. It was nicer than the one that was on here. The bumpers from the other car. Got the green tinted glass. This window rolls up and down. Some parts for it in the back here. Headlight bezels, gauge cluster. You can see here, I don't know how well you can see that, the trim's rotted in half. This trunk pan was completely gone. The floors were completely gone. The frame's in really nice shape, so that was okay. But yeah, it was it's not great. Oh, door's stuck. However, I like doing things myself. I don't really love farming stuff out. I have in the past. I've paid people, lots of money to paint my dirt, and I'm nothing wrong with the quality. I'm super happy with it. But it was also, 20 grand in body and paint. And if I only had one car, that'd probably be fine. But I don't. I've got multiples, and I enjoy saving them, putting them back on the road. And this thing, people just laughed at me. You know, why are you bothering? This thing is just a piece of junk. Yeah, it's neat though. So if I'd taken this to a shop to get them to do body and paint, man, they would have, I can't even, what, 50 grand, 100 grand? Oh, you can't see very well in here, the lighting's poor, but yeah, I don't think it would have been cheap. So those backyard guys, they don't really exist anymore. You know, you hear guys talk about, you know, back in '82 they painted a car or had a guy do it for 500 bucks. Well, that's great. That doesn't happen anymore. Get that mentality out of your head. It doesn't exist. You can't even buy the material anymore for less than like 2 grand. So anyways, this is this car, and my plan for it is I have a 354 Hemi in the shop that I've been going through, and I put it in here, and I'm going to use an old cast iron TorqueFlite 3-speed transmission, keep it push button, and that's this one. And I did just paint it in the spring, so I mean I do sort of jump around, but I make sure that I don't just ignore something for 10 years and keep saying, oh, I'll get back to it one day. I always try and jump around and put some good work into stuff. And then this one, you guys have seen this, or you will see it soon depending on when I upload this video. This is a 79 Dodge Power Wagon W200, so a 3/4 ton, 4x4. It's actually full-time 4x4. 360, 4-speed. Feels like it's got 3.5s or 3.73s, not quite 4.10s. But this is one that I recently sort of saved. I've been driving it around a little bit, and I'm going to put it up for sale shortly here. And going in the shop, this is a Ford F350, 1964. I've ripped the dash apart, redoing all the wiring. I've got 3 or 4 gauge clusters, basically just trying to make one decent truck. This has the 6-lug bolt pattern. I won't do too much of a video on this right now. Underneath this one is this is the 354 Hemi. Same thing, new rings. This is standard bore. It's actually out of a 300D, I think it said, or 300. Yeah, I can't remember. But it's the factory dual quad, 10.5-to-1 354 Hemi, and it says they made 355 horsepower. So it's a pretty cool engine, definitely worth saving. It had a big split on the side of it from improper storage, and the water froze and it was stored outside. But that's the engine headed for that wagon. So this sitting here, this is a 303 Poly. This is out of my, this is actually out of the wagon, this engine. And I kept it around thinking I would probably go through it one day. It does spin over. I did have it running for a few minutes, but I wanted to do something different with the wagon. So back there, that is an 8-foot Barnes lathe. It's, you know, it's got the patent of 1880 on it. It's pretty old. It's extremely heavy. Let's see if I can get over here without hurting myself. Man, you build the shop bigger and bigger and it just fills up with junk. You can't walk around. Anyways, this came with a ton of tooling. It runs really true. There's no run out in the chuck or anything. You know, I'm not a lathe guy. I don't have the right terminology, but this thing works great for what I use it for, the purposes that I use it. It's got the tool change there. I just wired it onto a switch up here. Yeah, pretty neat old lathe. There's the 1880 patent on it. Pretty cool. So I don't know what year this lathe was made, but I'm sure it's pretty old. It's got the, it's a number 13 they call it, so it's really long though. I don't know why it's so long. Every other one I've seen has been a, what they call a 4.5, which is 4.5 feet long, I think. This thing is massive. I've got a press here that I use sometimes. You know, engine hoist, welder. That's a stick welder. I use that quite a bit. I've got a tire machine. That's an old Coates 4040. And big air compressor back there. Over here, I've got this bubble balancer. This is a Coates bubble balancer. I don't have a fancy balancer. I just use that little Coates bubble. There's a MIG welder. Got this cool old fridge here, a Westinghouse. This was down at the appliance store down the road. They were going to scrap it. It was in the metal bin. And I said, well, what do you guys want for it? I was just planning on bringing it home and putting my welding rods or something in it. And they said, oh, you can just take it. We're just going to scrap it. So I brought it home, I plugged it in, and it works. Works a little too well, full of ice, and it's turned all the way down to 1. If you turn it up any higher, it just freezes everything, but this is my beer fridge. And yeah, it's pretty cool actually. It works really well. It barely ever runs. It just keeps everything cold. I think I figured out the date was 1950. This is my 57 Royal. You guys have seen this. This is my Papa's old 65 Fargo. You guys have also seen this. Up the ladder is all my small parts storage. So all the stuff that you don't want to leave outside, I've got up there, and it actually goes around the back side. Here, I'll do a quick tour up here. So yeah, just all kinds of stuff up here. I've got, you know, thermostat housings, power steering pumps, harmonic balancers, horn rings, air cleaners, flex plates, wiper blades, seat belts, steering wheels, trim, armrests or seat tracks, water pumps, blah blah blah. It goes on and on. You know, this is, you know, little gauges and stuff. These are swept line gauges, stuff that you don't want sitting outside going bad, pitting, you know, wiper motors, coils. There's a bunch of Ford stuff there. Big bin of distributors. Those are mostly small block and big block Dodge distributors. There's a small block bell housing. I've got this old radio that this guy rebuilt for me. It's an old tube radio. That's a Pi radio. I don't really know what to do with it. It kind of just sits there. Every once in a while I plug it in and listen to AM news. Tacks, pulleys. Yeah, this is, every time I'm working on a project down there, I'm up here almost every day. I come up here and grab a little part, and I built this shop myself, at least this upper portion. Where I'm standing, it used to be the roof actually. I took the roof off. I framed it up 8 feet. I put the hoist in over there, and then I put this big beam in, and I built this mezzanine. I do have a plan to build like a railing here with probably some plywood so that I don't fall off when I'm old, or even now, or drop stuff down there on the nice cars. And then over here in the corner, where I didn't sheet it with drywall, it's actually framed for a doorway. See, I got some switches here. So, turns off the lights from downstairs. And I was going to put like a metal staircase in on the outside so I can come up to a door here and come in that way. I probably will still do that if I could find some metal stairs that are affordable. This ladder is old and wooden, and every time I climb up and down it, I wonder, I just wonder, is this going to be the last time? It's just old and crappy, and it's way too close to the vehicles down here. I don't love having it here. it doesn't, you can't get it up to the right any higher, but you can't move it away. So yeah, it's not my favorite thing. Yeah, I put some steel beams in here, welded some gussets on, put this massive beam on there, and framed in just the floor. It's so much better than it used to be. The shop originally was just these two bays here with one door where it is behind the Fargo there to drive in. I actually built the door higher so that upper portion you can open separately, like a sort of like an old barn door. And then I can drive, you know, taller stuff in, like my green Ford or my camper van. Then there's a door behind this car. And then years later I had actually added this part and put the door on the side. Just has a sloped roof here, so you can pull vehicles in this side too. And then I slowly expanded. I added just this little section over here for a wood stove, so in the winter time I got this thing roaring away. This is awesome, it heats the whole shop. And then I built this section, but as you can see the roof just keeps sloping down and down, so eventually it just gets too low. So this section's like engine storage, engine building area, the lathe is back there, tire machine, you know, it's kind of just extra space. On the tools, this is a transmission jack. I've got a metal brake. It's only about it's like 3 feet long. It's good for small stuff. This is a brake lathe. It's an old AccuTurn. And I use this, I don't use it all the time, but I did just use it the other day. I turned a 10-inch drum for an old guy in town here for his Belvedere. It's got all the pieces for different size drums. It also does rotors for discs, and I have turned flywheels on it. So depending on the size of flywheel, I might do that one down there. That's for this Ford dump truck. But anyways, guys, kind of a long video where I ramble on, but I thought I'd show you guys the shop, show you the projects, and you know, then you guys sort of get an understanding where everything comes from back here. And I try and, you know, even when I did this truck, I try and use parts that I have in the back or up in my parts storage already to avoid spending money on new stuff. I mean, if you can reuse old stuff and not create new waste, then I think that's probably that's to me is the best way to do this. There's a couple more things I forgot about over here. This is the '67 Newport. I'd actually have sold this car, or I've at least taken half the payment for it. The guy said early September. We're now mid-September, so I'm kind of just holding my breath, waiting for him to give me a call. And this is my 49 49 Fargo that I put on a 4x4 chassis. I unfortunately didn't drive this truck this much this year. I drove it in the spring for a while, and then I just never insured it again. I got sidetracked. That's the hood for the 58 Plymouth two-door wagon. And then over here, just a bunch of junk really. I've got a bunch of parts back there. Lots of windows. Sort of just junk storage over here. I should probably clean it up. But yeah, there you go. Thanks for watching, guys. I appreciate it. And hopefully these videos are better than the last ones, the quality. I did get a new camera, so thanks again to all you guys who have been putting up with all my horrible footage, blurry and shaky and weird colors and lots of editing. Man, the editing that went into those, trying to cut out all the purple glitchiness crap. Yeah, hopefully that's done. So hopefully this little camera can last. Anyways, thanks for watching, guys, and please subscribe, and we'll see you on the next one.